Hey, what's up, bro? Hope you're doing good today. So, listen, we've got something really interesting to talk about. Yeah, I'm talking about the new Death Stranding update, version 1.0005. Now, before you scroll away thinking it's just another minor patch, trust me, this one actually has some neat things going on under the surface. I know it doesn't look like a big flashy update on paper, but when you really start to understand what it changes and why it matters, it's kind of cool in that Kojima way, the subtle but meaningful type of update that fits perfectly with the whole Death Stranding vibe. So let's start from the top. This update just dropped recently, and depending on where you're at in the world, you probably got it around October 21st or 22nd. It's rolling out for the PlayStation 5 version of Death Stranding Director's Cut, and it's roughly about 5.7 gigs, which already tells you it's more than just a few bug fixes. When a patch is that size, something's definitely being tweaked behind the scenes. And what's cool is that it's not changing the core gameplay itself, but more like upgrading how the game interacts with the PS5 system. Basically, this update adds full support for Sony's new Power Save for Games feature. Now, if you haven't heard about that yet, let me break it down a bit because it's actually a fresh addition that Sony just rolled out in their latest firmware update for the PS5. Think of it like this. Your console now has a way to intelligently adjust how much power it's using depending on the game and what's happening on screen. In other words, it's all about giving you the same beautiful graphics and performance, but while pulling less energy from the wall. It's part of Sony's push toward making the console a little greener, more efficient, and maybe even a bit quieter if your fan tends to spin up when things get intense. Now, Death Stranding Director's Cut supporting this feature makes total sense. Kojima Productions is known for their attention to detail, and this game already plays like an ultra-precise technical showcase. You've got the weather system, the terrain physics, the incredible lighting. It's one of those games where the atmosphere almost feels alive. So having a feature that lets the system balance performance and energy usage kind of fits perfectly with the world of Death Stranding, right? It's literally a game about rebuilding connections, sustainability, and survival in a post-apocalyptic world. And now the update itself is all about sustaining your console and making it more efficient. It's actually kind of poetic when you think about it. I know some people out there are probably thinking, cool, but does it make the game run any better? Well, here's the thing. Performance-wise, it's not a dramatic change, like going from 30 FPS to 60 FPS or anything like that. The game already runs buttery smooth on PS5, and this patch doesn't mess with those frame rates or resolutions directly. What it does is make the game aware of your console's new energy-saving mode. So when you enable Power Save for Games in your PS5 settings, Death Stranding now recognizes it and adjusts accordingly. Maybe it scales down certain background processing when it doesn't need full GPU usage, or tweaks how dynamic resolution behaves to save power when the scene isn't too heavy. It's subtle, but it's optimization at its best, doing its thing quietly while you just enjoy the game. It's kind of funny how Death Stranding keeps finding new ways to stay relevant years after launch. Think about it. The original came out in 2019, and here we are in late 2025, still getting meaningful updates. Not just bug fixes, but actual system-level improvements. That's one of the things I really respect about Kojima Productions. They don't just abandon their games. They treat them like living works of art that keep evolving with time. It's the same reason the Director's Cut exists in the first place. It wasn't just a re-release. It was a carefully tuned expansion with new tools, missions, and gameplay tweaks. Now, one thing people often overlook is how this update might affect those playing in performance versus fidelity mode. Since Death Stranding already lets you choose between those two modes on PS5, one prioritizing frame rate and the other focusing on 4K visuals, it's likely that the Power Save feature interacts with both differently. For example, if you're playing in performance mode, the console might slightly lower GPU frequency when it's not needed, keeping your fan noise down. In fidelity mode, it might dynamically scale resolution a bit more often and Hawkeye, but you won't notice much because of how well the Decima engine handles upscaling. It's that kind of behind-the-scenes engineering that makes the game feel smooth no matter what's going on. And let's not forget, this isn't the only game to support the feature. Sony seems to be gradually enabling Power Save for more first-party and big-name titles. But Death Stranding being one of the early ones is pretty symbolic, right? It's like a bridge between generations. Again, totally fitting for a game that's all about connections and bridging worlds. What's also cool is that this update indirectly reminds people that Death Stranding 2, officially titled On the Beach, is still coming. And yeah, for those who've been keeping up, that game had its own 1.005 update earlier this year, back in June. That one was smaller, only about 400 megabytes, and it mostly addressed a crash issue involving specific cargo deliveries. It wasn't flashy, but it showed that Kojima Productions is still refining both games side by side, making sure everything feels polished for long-term fans. Honestly, that's one of the things that makes Kojima different from other directors in gaming. He doesn't just build worlds, he nurtures them. Every update, every tweak, it's part of this bigger conversation between the developer and the community, and the players notice it. Every time an update hits, even if it's minor, and start analyzing the patch notes like it's a clue for what's coming next. It's like there's this constant curiosity. What's Kojima up to now? What hidden message might be buried in this seemingly normal update? And let's be real, with Kojima, you can never rule that out. The man once turned a fake game trailer for The Phantom Pain into a real reveal for Metal Gear Solid 5, so if he wanted to tease something in an update patch, he absolutely could. Though in this case, it looks like 1.05 is purely technical, focused on the power save compatibility and overall stability. But still, fans are keeping an eye on every file that gets updated, just in case there's something hidden. Now, if you're someone who hasn't played Death Stranding in a while, this might actually be the perfect excuse to jump back in. There's something weirdly relaxing about it. The slow pace, the landscapes, the music. It's like therapy wrapped inside a post-apocalyptic delivery simulator. And with this new update, it's running more efficiently than ever, which means longer sessions without your console heating up or spinning its fans like a jet engine. You can lose yourself in that world again, knowing that even the system underneath is now optimized to work smarter. Another subtle benefit, which Sony mentioned when announcing the feature, is that it can extend the lifespan of your console components over time. Lower power usage means less heat stress on your hardware, and less heat equals longer lasting internals. So, in a roundabout way, this update not only improves how the game interacts with your console, but might also help your PS5 stay healthier in the long run. That's kind of awesome when you think about it. An update that's literally helping your console age gracefully while you enjoy a visually stunning game. And there's something satisfying about watching a game like Death Stranding continue to evolve technically even years later. Most games hit their peak and then just fade away, but this one refuses to be forgotten. It's still one of the most cinematic, weirdly emotional experiences you can have on a console, and every update like this reminds us that it's not going anywhere. It also makes me wonder what Kojima's team is learning from these small patches, because every technical update teaches them something about how the Decima engine behaves with new PS5 firmware, which could directly influence how they optimize Death Stranding 2, or even their next project after that. So in a way, this isn't just about fixing or tweaking an old game, it's like research and development disguised as an update. That's the cool part about Kojima Productions. They're always experimenting, always learning, and you can feel it in the work they do. So, uh, so yeah, bro, that's what's going on with the new Death Stranding update. It's not some huge content drop with new weapons or story missions, but it's one of those updates that quietly makes the experience better, smoother, and more efficient. It's about refining what's already a masterpiece and making sure it fits perfectly with the newest system features. If you're someone who appreciates the small details, the subtle improvements that make a great game even better, then this update is definitely worth your time. Just boot up the game after downloading it, maybe check your PS5 settings to enable power save for games, and you'll be good to go.